This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium. Episode 53, Tabletop Simulator. Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. Oh, Hunter, I'm exhausted. I'm a dead man inside.
That's a great way to start.
It's a great way to start.
This is good.
Let me set this up for you.
Super tired. Oh my
it
God,
is
I don't even wanna
11
be here.
p.m. At 11 a.m. this morning, I showed up at my parents' house to start setting up the stream. At 12 p.m. this morning, or this afternoon, I guess, we streamed, and it was the longest 10-point stream we've ever had. It was ridiculously long. It was very slow.
Yeah.
First half of the game was meh, and the second half of the game was on fire. It was great. So if you're going to go back on YouTube once I get that up and you want to watch it, I highly advise just watch the second half. Don't even bother with the first half.
Yeah, just kind of skip ahead. That's fine. Yeah, well, cool. Welcome to Whiny Boys.
Welcome to Whiny
Boys. Where two whiny boys complain of, oh my God, it's so hard.
It's so hard to play this board game that we love.
Oh my God, I had to play a game all day.
And then talk about it. Can we do some spoilers?
I've got cardboard in my diaper. I've got cardboard in my diaper.
Can we do some spoilers? I want to do some spoilers. I want to just jump right into like what this game was.
Okay, but if you're going to do spoilers, then I want you to insert a map from the future giving the timestamp of when the spoilers end.
Spoilers end at 14 minutes. So from there, let's discuss the Yin Brotherhood real quick. What do you say? I played as the Yin Brotherhood.
Why did you play them? Why did you pick them? You played them so much. You're leaning on them now.
I haven't played them in a while.
Your main.
I haven't played them in a while.
You play them all the time.
Whatever. Well, here was the deal. After building the pie slice, which was bad. It was a bad pie slice, or a bad system that was built. It was pretty haphazard.
What was the matter with it?
It was just kind of imbalanced in a couple of pretty obvious ways. The person to my right, who ended up being Sardak Nor, had a really terrible starting position, which, as Sardak Nor, doubly screwed him over. And I had 3 tech skips, just easy ready to go. 3 tech skips that I got right away, and that was the second objective to get revealed. And I scored that, and I was the only one that scored that. And the reason I picked Yin is because I had a green and a yellow skip. And so I was like,
Jesus.
Oh man, I can do some work with Yin.
What was your third skip?
Blue, which I later skipped to Gravity Drive. So, it was I used all 3 skips. I used the green skip to get hypermetabolism, I used the yellow skip to get transit diodes, and I used the blue skip to get Gravity Drive.
Why did you let that be a thing?
I didn't notice it when we were building it, and it was like 11:59. I was just I was ready to go. Like I did not want to toy around
with
it.
The stream started.
Yeah. I wanted to get moving. So it suffered from that end, and probably that obviously contributed to my win. I didn't have the best slice. The resource and influence of every slice was very, very even. It was just a few other of the weird factors that you have to think about a lot longer. Those got a little jacked up, but it led to me winning. So Yin,
did you win the last? No, the last one.
Michael
won.
I have won 3 out of 4 Yin games though. I didn't.
Oh wait, what?
Of my Yin Brotherhood games, I have won 3 out of 4.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm a Yin player.
That.
I play Yin. I like Yin. They're, like I said in the guide, they are legitimately my style. They do what I want to do.
Right.
Which is just take a planet and then not be able to lose it. Will Loader as the Clanosaur tried twice to take a planet from me and failed, and then I held Mechatol against 2 separate invasions. I never got planets taken from me.
So I need to ask you about this though, because I saw that moment. I got so lucky, and just popped into that moment for a second, and it made me think oh my God, this is the most lit stream we've ever done. But So Will is trying to take Mechatol from you, and he's got like 4 dreadnoughts.
No, this wasn't Will. This was... Oh, no, it was Will. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Chris, the Lizix, came in later to try to take it as well, but Will was trying to take it.
But Will had a lot of bombardment, and how come that didn't help? Did you play like...
No, he rolled 4 bombardment and got 3 hits, and I had 4 ground forces, so I had 1 left over.
Wow. Okay, so everybody needs to... Did you clip that? Please tell me you clipped that.
I can go back and clip it very easily.
Yeah, you should clip that, because
But yeah, so then it was a 1v4, which I indoctrinated into a 2v3 and then won.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Telling you, man.
Yin is really good.
Yin holds on to stuff.
So
now that
crazy.
was slightly against the odds, but not that much, to be totally frank. Like a 3v2 invasion is not...
Well, yeah, because defense has
the advantage. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I held it, and then Chris came in very shortly after that to try to take it again, but it was basically the same thing. The indoctrination turned the odds enough in people's favor. I just don't... The problem was a lot of them were newer, where they didn't fully understand the ground forces math, and when you play against Yin, like, that ground forces math does not mess around. Like, you need to have vastly overwhelming ground forces to take out a Yin planet.
It's just crazy that people were bringing so much bombardment at you, and it wasn't making a difference, though.
Yeah.
You have to admit that's
crazy.
That's weird.
He brought 5 dreadnoughts. I just managed to kill one with a devotion. I used devotion. That was the only time in the game I used devotion. I killed a cruiser to take out 1 dreadnought, just so he would have 1 less bombardment, because I was terrified.
That's smart. That's smart.
But yeah, so
what was some of the other like good stuff that I maybe missed?
Wait,
actually, I want to say this before we get into
You were
the
so
nitty-gritty.
mad.
I was so upset to tune in to the end of the game and just see that you had it, and I could not believe that they were all just sitting there like...
Yeah. It was too late.
Not doing anything.
Not seeing
and
it.
if I had just tuned in a little bit sooner...
Well, in their defense... It wasn't that obvious that I had it until after they had all passed. I stalled a lot of that last round, and then my final actions were doing my secret objectives, which my last hand was 3 action phase secret objectives.
Wow.
So, like, you can't plan for that. That's pretty crazy. Like, so...
But they could have seen that you were going to get to 9.
Yes, exactly. They
could
have seen
that. They saw 9 points.
Yeah.
And you had only scored 1 secret. Which is like, I can't believe they were not on you, because they were all like a phase behind. They were all in the mid game.
I'll say this much, though.
You were the only one in the late game.
I was, but the other problem too was until the very, very last action, I had the huge van in my home system too. So it was like, I'm pretty sure all of them were looking at. Anyone who was paying attention was like, well, I mean, what would we do anyways? There's no recourse of taking the home system.
There's no getting to the planet.
Right. Yeah. My final action that won me the game was moving my flagship out to try to win a combat with the huge van, which was a terrifying...
Which you should clip that too.
That was amazing.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that you had unveil flagship at first, because it looked like you had the bombardment one.
Right.
Which you failed to get.
I did have it, and then I failed to get it. I missed 3 bombardment shots.
So then, watching you get unveil flagship with the huge van, knowing full well that you could just blow it up accidentally.
Yes. Well, there were 2 parts to that. 1, it had to go through the gravity rift, which I am notoriously bad at. And 2, we were playing with these weird audience agendas. I knew that EJ had a direct hit. So even though I was rolling 2 and a 9 against his carrier of 1 and a 9, either of us just needed 1 hit, and it was over.
Right.
Because he would have direct hitted it, and then it was, so...
And then that was it.
Yeah, so we were both... And it was like 5 rounds of combat before either of us got a hit. So it was like annoyingly tense.
Okay. Well, talk about the audience objectives a little bit.
They were amazing. I love doing those. We had some amazing ones. We did the Necronomicon, which is where you can copy a tech from someone else as an action. It's really broken because we were just passing around tech all game. Like, it was just like... You get a tech. Like, it was completely... Everyone had way too much tech for a normal game. And
were you doing the Oprah Winfrey
thing, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
But, like, Sardak Nor scored 3 tech objectives. That's how ridiculous Necronomicon was. And it was because he and one other player were just... Him and the Nalu were just passing it back and forth, basically. So it was very broken. And then at one point, you handed the game away because you helped swap the asteroid field and the gravity rift systems. We completely swapped the tiles.
Right. Well, I mean, fun. I didn't know.
No, you had no idea that was going to be the game-winning move for me. But I had to.
Right.
I rifted twice for the win, which was awful. I hate doing that, but it was going to win then or not at all. So.
Well, you would have been able to get to that system.
I would have been at 9 even without the flagship victory, and I could have just bombarded again.
I think
next
you
round.
were just so ahead that there was no stopping you. When somebody there's a huge. It's so crazy. You have to clear 6 points to reliably be able to win.
Yeah.
And the fact that I tuned in and you were at 8 and nobody was at 7. Or that nobody was
Nalu got to
6.
7, I think, right? But maybe you're right. I don't remember the exact scores, but yeah, it was something like that.
Maybe he was. I don't remember, but just the fact that so few people had cleared the threshold of being able to win in one round. A lot of those people were 2 rounds away from being able to finish.
Well, that's why I had so much confidence in that last round too. Was just the sheer fact of I know I could maybe win this round, and even if I don't, no one's hot on my tail.
You were going to be fine.
I'll win it next round probably.
I was so worried right away. I could tell there was something wrong because I tuned in.
You saw me being happy.
You were so happy. You were just dancing around and you were rolling your dice all willy nilly. Oh, I don't even care what happens. And I'm like, this is not Matt. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
He is about to take this game.
Yeah.
And and you did, and it was very upsetting to watch.
Well, I feel like that's about all I got on that game. There's too much. There's not enough that you can genuinely take away from that stream game because of how ridiculous the audience agendas are. So it's not like it even puts a letter in Yin's cap, because it was just it was such a ridiculous game.
Right. But, well, that's the thing about the having the streams like that is as data they're kind of weird, but they're very fun.
Yeah. I love it.
But one more thing before we move on.
Sure.
Tell me. What did you kind of think of the other players? What kind of games did they have? Or is there any player that was super notable?
Lizix had an amazing swing round. Lizix was not scoring anything, and everyone was kind of writing Lizix off. And then he had a 6-point round, and
oh my God,
was in the running, and it was just Lizix could win. He's up there with Nalu. At one point, EJ was even wait, how did you get ahead of me? And he was like, dude, I had an amazing round last round, and no one was paying attention. Lizix completely turned it around in basically 1 round, 1.5 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. That was the main notable thing. We had a stupid audience agenda where there was no fleet supply in your home system.
Oh, no fleet supply limits?
No fleet supply limits in your home system, and EJ was the necrovirus, so not only did he not have fleet supply limits, but he had his flagship in his home system with a lot of ground forces, so that was kind of a fun little note, was just okay, Necro's home system is triple untakeable. There's just, don't even think about it.
God, pretty much anybody's home system.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's.
Honestly, that agenda though kind of makes the huge van kind of more of a now what are we doing am I literally evaluating an audience agenda for its strategic whatever.
I was weighing that numerous times. Was do I just put the huge van there, or do I load up with a bunch of ships? I don't know which is the better option. I mean, I think it was a mistake not to put the huge van on Mechatol Rex, but the timing of it was weird and I wasn't really able to do that, and then I had more resources later, so I kind of went back on it. I don't know, it was funky.
Well, cool. Tell us, Matt, what is the episode today about, the episode proper?
This is a weird, short little conversation that I wanted to have because, like I said, I've already talked about TI for 9.5 hours today. 10 hours? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah. Whiny boy.
Well,
why don't you whine some more?
This is more. This is where you get to start whining because we're going to talk about Tabletop Simulator, which you're on record as generally hating. But I felt like a good idea to, as we're getting closer to the Patreon tournament, to start talking about kind of the pitfalls and the benefits of Tabletop Simulator and sort of get. Right. I think we wanted to get some audience reactions as well. I think this episode very much leads into please give us a bunch of tasty errata so we can discuss this stuff more next week.
Right.
because we want to hear you. I think the community plays more Tabletop Simulator than you and I do, so we're also coming at this a little bit not as experts on the matter.
Right.
So I'm very curious what more people will have to say. But yeah, we wanted to just kind of spitball a little bit about Tabletop Simulator.
Well, and I want to make sure to make the point that this is essentially us fielding for ideas of how not necessarily the rules of the tournament are going to work, but the etiquette for it, because Tabletop Simulator is different from being in the flesh.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just, we, I don't want these games to all be like 12-hour long, like sludgy fest.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people and I would encourage myself, very much so. First of all, hey Hunter, you need to learn TTS better, bro.
Yeah. And that's
but I would also encourage all the people.
Yeah, start practicing it, and even literally just like get on there. There are pickup games of all sorts of games, like non-Twilight Imperium as well. I genuinely advise people get in and just like jump in a game of like Love Letter or whatever, like just to like toy around in the space, or even just play a game by yourself, load up something and like learn the hotkeys. If you hit question mark on your keyboard when you're in Tabletop Simulator, it pulls up a little menu of like all the hotkeys, and like start toying with those, because Tabletop Simulator gets so much easier when you at least have like a rudimentary knowledge of the hotkeys. But too often I see people like jump in blind, and it is messy. Like it's really, really messy to know like clicking versus clicking and holding and dragging, and like I don't know. It is really hard, but it can become really fluid and fast. I think Tabletop Simulator could be faster if everyone was like really comfortable with the platform. It's just that that's usually not the case. And there's other factors that make it slow down. But yeah,
there's the messiness of like learning how the bags work. Right. I think that was like always a huge problem for me. Like I would just lose stuff in
bags,
other
random,
stuff. Yeah, in bags. But like now that I know that that's an issue, like I just kind of play with that in mind.
Yeah, you just
like,
avoid.
I gotta make sure I don't drop any of this in this bag, because then I'll forget where it is and stuff. But so a big thing we want to talk about is whisper chat.
Yes, which is
I think is really important.
I don't even know
discuss.
fully how I stand on it. I go back and forth on this. I've had games where whisper chatting, like, it enhances the game a lot, like having all of these crazy secret conversations is like really, really interesting in an especially like Cold War kind of, or just like, I don't know, like in a information warfare sense. I love being able to just tell everyone anything and be lying to everyone all at once. Like that's hugely fascinating to me.
It's a very different type of game when you play with the whisper chat.
Right.
It really changes it a lot for especially how we play.
Yeah. Because all I want to do is have secret conversations with people. And so, but it got to the point where it was slowing down the game so much, because it would be like, oh, it's my turn. Okay, well, give me a minute. And you just hear typing for like 5 minutes of these two people trying to hash out some sort of deal through only text. And it just got completely exhausting. So we've started to adopt a method on our Discord where we have a separate channel for secret conversations, a separate voice channel. So if you need to have a conversation with someone real quick, the two of you hop out, jump in the other Discord channel, and you have like 1 minute to talk through things. It's basically the equivalent of walking into the next room over, when you're at your house having this. We tried to emulate that idea. And I feel like for the Tabletop Simulator, that's going to be the method we go for. I don't know if we can turn off whisper chatting on TTS. I really hope we can somehow.
Yeah, someone let us know if you know that you can. I was trying to look it up earlier and I could not find any like information just saying yay or nay, but
yeah, I think even for our own benefit, I'm pretty sure game masters in a game can see everyone's whispers, so that would still be cool. Like I like the idea of us getting to see all of the secret conversations happening.
Oh god, that's amazing.
But I don't know that it's worth the amount of slowdown that might happen versus if we could just also jump in the voice channel with the people and hear their conversation, and just to be able to like see I just like the idea of seeing everything that's going on so that we can talk about it. But I think the faster method is timed separate voice channels, and I advise people to try to implement something like that in your own Tabletop Simulator games. Just avoid.
I mean, I know my vote is no whisper chat.
Yeah,
basically.
Even though I think it is awesome and fun, I
think it is cool. Yeah.
I like whisper chat with like my close friends, where it's like we know kind of what's going to be allowable socially. But when you're with a bunch of strangers, it's like hard to know how much you're annoying people with how much whispering you're doing. And so I think it's just better to do a separate voice channel.
Well, and I think it just changes the nature of the game so much. Like, I want our TTS tournament to feel
like a real game.
Close to, as close to like regular TI as possible. Because the thing that TTS opens up is it gives you the space to make everything a negotiation.
Yes.
Which is cool because obviously we love negotiation.
Right.
That's like part of our whole thing.
Yep.
Our whole angle on this game, like why we prefer it to like, you know, like Euro games in general, is there's more opening for that. But if every single thing is negotiable, that is a different experience than playing it in real life, because in real life it would take some gall to actually negotiate every single nitty-gritty detail like you can in TTS with Whisper Chat on.
Right. And even beyond that, to go further into negotiating, I think something that people have pointed out really wisely in the past of what is wrong with Tabletop Simulator is being on voice chat, being on Discord or like Google Hangouts or whatever with a bunch of people. The second more than 2 people are talking at once, it's instantly unintelligible. Versus in person, like in person, 2 people can be having a conversation at once. They're just like, you know, leaning over and talking to each other. And I think it really does break group negotiations on Tabletop Simulator. And there isn't a clean fix for that. And so I'm curious to see how we're going to try to like, I feel like as moderators, we might have to implement a little bit of a, okay, no, now you talk, and now that, you know, we can't like have people raise their hands because we can't see that, but we're gonna have some sort of like everyone gets a moment to come to the floor and discuss things, because it's too easy for people to get completely overshadowed by, even sometimes it's just like a bad connection, right? Like it's a little bit hard to hear you, so people just start talking over you and you never get a word in edgewise. So I feel like maybe as moderators we might have to put our foot down a little bit in giving people room to negotiate things. I'm curious how that'll play out, and I'm definitely curious what other people's experiences with that are. If there's anyone who's like, yeah, I'm a little bit of a more quiet player in my live games, and on TTS I don't say anything the whole time. I feel like there's people out there that are gonna like relate to that.
Here's something that I, from the last TTS game we played, kind of took away from it, which is that in the agenda phase, I'm anticipating there being a text element to it alongside all of the negotiation. I think it's faster and makes more sense for like, so, you know, when you're moderating a game, you have to, when the agenda comes out, you kind of have to let everyone know that they could play veto and quash and the order that happens in. And then writers the same way. We've really gotten into like a good habit of, and by we, I mean you, a good habit of checking on that in the proper order, which is good because writers don't really work if you don't do the order correct, really. Like they actually don't function properly. So I think for all of that stuff, it's going to require a text element of someone saying yay or nay, typing it out so that we have that like confirmation,
that visual,
and so that we don't get confused as to like, because like we played a game and
you had a writer,
you were going around asking for people, and I got skipped because somebody said no writer and it sounded like me, and then you just went on to the next person, and I didn't realize it until somebody else played a writer, which made my intended writer play a dirty play. Essentially, because I knew something I wasn't supposed to know. Which is a bummer, and I don't want anything like that to happen in the tournament. I want everything to be as clear as possible.
I think it's very good to have just like a simple Y or N for each, you know, for when agenda is going around the corner, you got to see a Y, you know, like down the list of everyone who's going to vote. And then even with voting, it might be wise to say like 10-4, just so that it's like seen, everybody sees it, no one missed it. There's no weird, like, oh, my connect, because I mean, you're constantly with TTS, especially if we're playing like internationally, and like, there's just going to be a lot of factors that are outside of the game that have to do with just internet connections and lag time and weird stuff like that we have to accommodate for to try to still have a clean game. And so I think implementing chat, things like that will help deal with that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, and I hope so. Another thing I wanted to mention that I just thought of now from our last TTS game is that I want to make it clear that the moderation style that we're going to do for the tournament is going to be focused on how do I explain this in a way that makes sense? We're going to let you know what timing window you're currently in.
Right.
We're not going to ask you if you are going to play a certain card.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference between saying, all right, now you would play a after, or what's a good... Matt, throw something out.
Yeah, I mean, an Assassinate Representatives card is when an agenda is revealed. I'm not going to ask everyone if they have are you going to assassinate their representatives? It's just, this is now when an agenda is revealed. And you just go around and you say, when an agenda is revealed, when an agenda is revealed, when an agenda is revealed, and let people deal with that timing. I think this gets even more specific when it comes to things like PDS or like at the start of combat.
Right.
First round of combat, second round
like
of combat. Yeah.
Right.
PDS especially, because sometimes people have third-party PDS that they're not paying attention to, and it's not like it's my job to tell you, hey, you're allowed to fire at the but if I kind of say, okay, this is the end of movement, PDS can fire now, and I say that once, then okay, but anybody who's not paying attention, tough.
That's it.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to play for people in the tournament and remind people of the things that they can do.
Yeah.
I think I want the style to feel, and we're going to experiment before we do the tournament. And I think we're actually going to hopefully have a live experiment that we can show you all of, like, this is how the moderation is going to work so that you're prepared for it. But of some kind. I don't know exactly what it's going to be at this point. But yeah, just reminding people of the phase, like almost like we are just going to read off of the list of moments and phases and activation windows that we're at.
Right.
So like reminding somebody that they can do something, that's not going to happen so much as we're going to say, this is the phase that we're in right now. This is when this would happen.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious on your thoughts, Hunter, on this next little blurb about how do you feel about the difference in a live game between a tabletop simulator game of being able to look at other people's stuff. Generally speaking, I would say this is a big part of Twilight Imperium, is like being aware of like how many command counters do they have? How many trade goods do they have? What planets are not exhausted right now that you need to account for if you're trying to pull off certain maneuvers? And yeah, I mean, is it easier or harder to do this in Tabletop Simulator?
I mean, I think for me, well, okay, so let's do the obvious answer first. It is easier because you can do it secretly. Mm-hmm. But for me, it is actually harder to focus on that because I find just navigating Tabletop Simulator takes enough of my focus to where I feel like I don't do a good enough job of paying attention to other people's stuff. But, I mean, in real life, you have to, like, kind of stand up or crane your head or, like kind of signal to the person that you're looking at their stuff. If you do it properly in TTS, you can just scroll over to their side and watch. And there's nothing we can do about this, and we wouldn't even try to, really.
It's just part of it.
But it is a difference. That is going to be different.
Obviously, Tabletop Simulator shows you like where the mouse is, but you can get really strategic with like, well, let me zoom in just the right amount so that my mouse isn't hovering. You know, it gets really funky that you can pull off some weird stuff. And I don't know if that's dirty or not. I'm curious how other people feel about like not realizing someone's looking at their stuff very intently, if that's bad or okay. I feel like it's okay. I think it's just part of it.
I think it's totally okay because and we both talked about this on the show before. We do this in real life.
Right. It's public knowledge anyways, and you side eye and you look at someone's stuff when you're not even actually looking at anything anyways.
Right. The fake out look, I'm gonna look at like, I mean, I've talked about this before, but I always like to pretend I'm looking at somebody, but I'm actually into their neighbor. Like I'm looking at their neighbor's stuff, but I make it look like I'm looking at them. That kind of fun, weird stuff that like I think a lot of players they don't even like
care about
it doesn't
that.
make a difference. Yeah, they're like, why are you even doing that? That's stupid.
It's not impressing anyone that you're like looking at somebody else's. Right.
Yeah. But it makes me feel like a secret agent.
Yeah. I do think I agree with you on the standpoint of just like it's really easy to put blinders on in Tabletop Simulator. It's just really easy to not even think to like, oh, I should be like looking when I'm being very level-headed and like cognizant of the game in Tabletop Simulator, I'm watching every single person's action. You know what I mean? Like, if they're buying something, I'm watching them flip every single planet, and I'm making sure it's the right amount, and I'm seeing which one they like. If I'm really able-minded enough, I'm watching every moment. But it's very, very easy in Tabletop Simulator because you're just at your computer desk to just like tune out and wait for your turn to come up. And so I'm interested to see if the best players, the players that win, are the ones that we see cruising around the board, looking at everything, constantly aware of everyone else's stuff, or if that's a big impact or not.
Right. Well, actually, I think this is probably a good time to bring up this point. Within the tournament, we are going to have a build money spent. Like we want people to show their builds.
You're gonna have to
basically.
show everything.
You're not gonna be able to put plastic on the board without showing the moderator how you built it first.
Right.
And I know right now that might sound like, oh my god, that's really gonna slow things down. That's why we've been talking so much about etiquette stuff lately. Like just when we talked about staging the other day, like in the always and nevers, we are going to expect you to do a certain amount of staging, and people do this anyways in Twilight Imperium. Like it's don't feel like it, like you kind of like you have to stage in TTS because you're literally like you have to set everything down. You can't just like have it in a weird pile.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could, but that would be madness.
No, it's way easy. It is easier to stage in TTS for sure.
I mean, I just want however this tournament turns out, whoever wins this tournament, I want people to know that they want it fair and square.
Right. Exactly.
And for that reason, we're gonna have to check. We're gonna have to check your builds. Luckily, we're fast, and a lot of the build math. I mean, obviously. Like it's not hard. It's not hard to show your work with builds. It's just like a lot of times people aren't looking at it. So
yeah.
So that will be a thing. Another thing I want to talk about that I wish we had like maybe brought up earlier in the episode when we were talking about negotiation, is that if there's a negotiation happening between two players in the middle of a game in the tournament, and it feels like it doesn't have a point or it's not going anywhere. Or it's too ambiguous. The players aren't really offering each other anything. I just want to make sure that the tournament doesn't have a lot of like filibustery type things.
There won't be time limit. There's not like we're gonna have time limits, so it's not like talking a bunch is like actually delaying the ability for someone to like pull off something. But just for the sake of everyone's time and trying to pull off, I mean, we're gonna be having to moderate a lot of games, so it's just like we're gonna get exhausted if every game is 12 hours long.
Right, and we're not looking to do like to shoot for that.
Right.
So I mean, I want everyone to know before we go into the tournament that like that we might ask you to if a negotiation is too complex and it's taking up too much time, we might ask you to save it for the status phase. And have like a secret conversation in the Discord channel or something like that. Versus like it like I mean we had our most recent TTS game had some very like game coming to an halt
completely
conversations.
So long and conversations that amounted to absolutely nothing actually getting swapped. It was just like I really don't want you to do this, so is there anything I can do to convince you, but I'm not really throwing an offer out there. It just was like multiple times throughout the game, just these weird messy like it's one thing if you just like don't like getting attacked. But no, don't filibuster about it. And we do basically reserve the right to be like, okay, well, we're going to move this along then. And time to talk about that later.
And if anybody hears that and that kind of turns them off, we're not looking to be a strict chess rule, like timer people.
Right. No, it won't be like that.
I just want people to know that as moderators, we're not going to just like, if it feels like players are slowing the game down needlessly, we are not going to just sit there and take that.
Right.
We will kind of hopefully move the games along.
In general, in our games, even like when I'm not strictly moderating, but I am kind of doing the like umpire thing, of like, let's kind of move the game along. The thing I typically tend to do is just, I remind the person over and over that it's their turn. Once every, 30 seconds or so.
Right.
I'm not trying to be pushy about it. I'm just like, okay, Hunter, it's your turn. Hunter, do you know what you're going to do? And wait a little bit, let you think some more, and then, okay, Hunter, do you have anything in mind? Are you ready to go ahead and do that? And that, like, it's just so that I think it's really easy. As a person who suffers from analysis paralysis, I appreciate those reminders myself when someone else is like, okay, Matt, it's time to, like, because it's really easy to lose track of how much time you've been thinking about something. And so to have someone reminding you every about 30 seconds, you go, oh gosh, okay, 30 seconds is past. I really got to, like, do something. So I hope that other people don't get offended or mad by those kind of insistences of like, okay, it is your turn to act. It's not trying to bug you. It's trying to like recognize that sometimes you lose track of that time, and it's just to let you know that it's your turn and things need to get moved along a little bit, and to, not hold out for too long. So hopefully we can find a nice little equal balance. I think there will certainly be some people that get annoyed by that, justifiably so, just because it's like, hey, I want to take time to think because I really care about this tournament. But we're gonna have to find a little happy medium in there.
I mean, I think if I can just kind of like say my goal without necessarily like, I think a lot of the stuff we're talking about is not set in stone.
No, absolutely
and
not.
is us like trying to figure stuff out. But I think essentially my goal for the tournament games is for the action phases to be full of lots of action.
Yeah.
And the status phase to maybe go a little slower. I kind of like the idea of people saving a lot of negotiation time for the status phase where they can just kind of look and plan.
And riff on
if
stuff.
they see a conversation that's probably going to have to happen, if they just go ahead and have that in the status phase, I think that just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And I want to ask how people feel about being a little proactive with stuff like that in each status phase.
Yeah.
Just because once you get to the action phase, everyone's trying to make their moves and do
right.
Like
There's so much going on.
I would hate the idea of people feeling like they just kind of got like not stalled out like in the way that we talk about in Twilight Imperium, but like I just feel like this game has been a war of attrition, and like now I just feel kind of disconnected with it. I want the action phases to be as snappy as a Twilight Imperium action phase can be.
Right, I agree. The last
Which
thing
is not very snappy.
No, not especially snappy. It's not like we're trying to turn this into a 3-hour long game. We won't be pushing you that
will
hard.
not happen, and we would not even try.
Yeah. The only other note too on like kind of Hunter said it like like being how strict we're going to be. I will say the one thing we are probably going to be very strict about. We started to hint at this last week, and the more we were talking on the Discord and stuff, I think we're going to be fairly strict about things like if you place the command counter, like that's it. People react to timings of activating a system, and we have to consider that in a tournament setting as opposed to just a friendly neighborhood game. This is a different setting, and so like the through line is going to have to be don't set that command counter down until you're ready to deal with the consequences of setting that command counter down.
Right.
So I do think we're going to be pretty strict about that. There's not going to be takesy backsies. We're not playing single mulligan rule. There's not going to be any of that stuff. Like what you play is what you play. If you play an action card on someone and you announce that person as the target of your action card and then they try to convince you not to, like you should have approached that conversation differently. You should have said, okay, I'm about to play this action card on you unless you can convince me not to. Otherwise, I'm going through with it. And that's not to say every single activation or every single timing window should be a negotiation, because sometimes like it is just like, no, I'm playing the action card on you and there's nothing you can say. But if you know ahead of time that there's some wiggle room, then you need to address that wiggle room before you actually lay it down. Because the alternative is you didn't realize Neuroglaive was active. You didn't realize the PDS were there, and that's not the same. That's you making a mistake, and you should be punished for it in a tournament setting.
Right.
So we're going to stick to our guns on that.
Right. There will be misplay in the tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is not. Yeah. We don't want it to be super forgiving. People are going to mess up, and I think that's part of it, and that's an important part of it.
Yeah, an important part of, I mean, that in TI3 especially, I always told people that is part of the game. Is like, there are a bajillion specific rules. You will not remember all of them. And like, once or twice a game, a rule will completely screw you over in a way that you feel like ruined your, and like, that's what you're playing against. You're playing against other players, but you're also playing against the rules themselves, because they'll get you. And I think we're going to kind of implement that philosophy a little bit when we get into this tournament.
I especially with activation, I feel like it's very important.
Yeah, I agree. Activation, movement, depending on what shit, like, we will do things like, okay, what are you moving in? Okay, have you like, is this your final answer sort of thing? Okay, this is what's moving. Now is PDS fire. Like, we have to have those sorts of, that's what we're talking about with like moving the timing windows along, is like, okay, the movement is officially over, PDS may now fire, as opposed to like, I'm firing my PDS. Okay, well, he didn't decide if he was doing his fighters yet, and now it's like a weird angle shooty thing. Like, it gets really confusing in that stuff. So having a moderator to be like, X is done, Y starts now, hopefully makes things go faster. I mean, that certainly at the Gen Con tournament, seeing Blarknob do essentially what we're talking about, like, his games ran lightning fast, you know? He was done in 4.5 hours. Like, it was super fast if everyone gets into that groove of just like, nope, just listen to the moderator and let him tell you when the timing is up, because he's not going to miss a timing. You know what I mean? You can depend on us just as much as you can feel like we're, I don't know, lording over the game. Like, we hopefully feel more like an asset to the game than we do a judge of the game.
Right. I agree.
Whew.
Well, what now?
That was a conversation.
We spoke through that really fast.
Yeah. But I want to hear more. Again, Hunter and I are not experts at Tabletop Simulator. A lot of you have played way more games on Tabletop Simulator than we have. I know there's plenty of people that have like 30 games of Tabletop Simulator under their belt or more. So we want to hear from you. Please let us know other things that come up in your games, other etiquette things, other advice on using the system itself, just all sorts of stuff. I think we want to keep this conversation going because we want to give people as many tools as possible going into this tournament as we can.
And some feedback, too, on what we have said. Like, you know, if you feel like we're crazy for not wanting there to be whisper chat. Let us know, but tell us why. Like, you're going to have, you know, like, tell us why you think that, what you feel, so that we can kind of like, you know, I mean, the nature of our show has always been listening to you guys and like adjusting to what you're saying.
Definitely.
And we are not, but it has to be a good argument. We don't, you know, obviously we don't just lay over, but
we're not taking a hard stance on this whisper chat thing. We'll see where it goes.
Right. I mean, I really lean against it, but you could talk me into it.
Absolutely.
I'm very, you know, I'm flimsy, you know. I'm a baby for this stuff, and I've got cardboard in my diaper.
Well, Hunter, do you want to take that cardboard in your diaper and do some errata?
Change me.
Change it. Let's go change you. Let me go change your diaper, and then we'll come back and we'll do some errata.
All right. Diaper has been changed. I feel good because now my diaper's changed.
And there's no more cardboard, no more rough paper rubbing all against your nethers.
Yeah, no more plastic or anything either. No more flagships.
This errata is about last week's episode of Tech Skips, right? We're talking all about Tech Skips.
Our first errata is from Pink. Wow, Pink. The
color.
No, no, it's Pink the Color. Pink the Color hit us up. Pink, why am I not in Twilight Imperium? Why did you not talk about the best tech skip in the game, the L1Z1X inheritance systems? I feel like a lot of what you guys talked about is thrown out of the window if the L1Z1X gets it.
You answered your own question.
Yeah,
is the end result there. We've talked about inheritance systems. I wanted to include this errata because I just wanted to like advise people that if you wanted to hear more about inheritance systems, go listen to the L1Z1X guide.
Yeah,
because that's a way more.
That's a hill that I died on.
That's a hill that he died on and regretted. But
right. I don't regret it.
No,
I just
you don't.
feel like it's I just feel like it's I don't know, every time this point comes up I'm like I just feel like my point wasn't. It's a nuanced point.
Sure, it is. But
we got one
so,
from Blarknob.
We got one from Blarknob. Let me finish this point, though, is that inheritance systems, at the very least, we did kind of drive home the point of if you get a yellow tech skip, inheritance systems is a better tech to get.
Oh, for sure.
To get to it. But beyond that, yeah, like I can't account for inheritance systems in tech skips because that's an infinite equation. I mean, or at least it is. Every single tech in the game has to be considered. So, whatever.
I mean, I think at this point, inheritance systems has been such a controversial tech that it might warrant its own episode in the future.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Well, that could
like
be a
thing. Like an L1 sequel guide,
yeah,
where we just talk about inheritance systems.
Right. Yeah, give me that Blarknob one, Hunter.
Yeah, so the Blarknob one. I don't remember. Did you talk about how good yellow tech skip is when you have 0 yellow tech? There are 3 unit upgrades that require just 1 yellow, and they are great. Dread 2, Cruiser 2, PDS 2.
Also Warsun. He didn't mention Warsun, but it's because he's talking about good tech, and Warsun isn't necessarily that. But yeah, I feel like we offhand mentioned this in the case of Warsuns and Dread 2, but we didn't point. Yeah, that's a good point to mention is 4 upgrades require 1 yellow and then a bunch of other stuff. So you could be going down completely different tech paths, and as long as you get that 1 yellow tech skip, your upgrade options widen up by half of them. Half of the unit upgrades you can get with a yellow skip.
Yeah, we definitely did not make that point. So yellow tech skips are even better.
Even
than
better.
We even said in the episode.
And we said they're the best.
And we already loved them. Yeah. We already loved it, and we didn't even know how right we were.
Yeah. Barnilo said, I played a game as extra recently and somehow wrangled control of both red tech skips. The temptation was just too much for me to resist, and I used them in 2 consecutive rounds to get Assault Cannon and Warsuns. It was an absolutely terrible decision. The rest of Barnilo's post, which it's a little bit longer, so I didn't reiterate all of it, but it was kind of detailing all the reasons it was bad. But it really just comes down to some really expensive Warsuns and Assault Cannon do not make up for 2 lost command counters. Two command counters and the options those grant you are actually better than the Warsuns, typically speaking. This is as extra. This is in whatever game they were in. Conditions. But I think I generally agree with this, especially after the Yin game I had today. I think I won that Yin game because I was going ham on getting command counters. Just get as many as I was spending way more money on using the influence of planets and wasting money than I was spending money on units. But I still won because activating stuff is a good thing, and it wins you games.
It's important to do that.
It's important to do that, and I just don't think, no red tech is worth as much.
I realized that recently. It's important to activate stuff. Fast Jack 98, who's 20 years old this year. That's something I know about Fast Jack is you're 20. By giving red skip planets more resources, the game is trying to balance out the opportunity cost of burning that planet to skip a poor tech as opposed to better tech in other colors. The opportunity cost in those other tech is losing out a good tech.
I'm curious if you agree with this, Hunter. The idea being that the designers were aware that Majin is a trash tech and that you will want to skip it, and so they made the red tech skip planets better. Do you think that was a cognizant choice, or do you think that's a happenstance thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think that I think they with Majin. I think it is that's our opinion about the tech not being good.
Yeah,
but I think when they were designing it, they were just looking for other things that the tech could do, and they came up with that, and it just ended up being the weakest idea.
Yeah.
But it's not I don't know, when we talk about Majin, there's a difference between Majin being a horrible idea and it being the weakest tech in the tree.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Graviton is a weak tech in the tree, but it's a great idea because it works sometimes.
Right.
Majin doesn't have a intentional usage. It is just a weird thing that sometimes maybe you can take advantage of defensively.
I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think that this was the logic that Dane and company used in designing the tech skips.
It is the end result.
Right. It is. Yeah, it is. It's like, it's weird. It's true, but the perspective I don't think is like what they actually took. I think honestly, like, I think they just kind of like were kind of forced into making that choice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, or like maybe the logic was like people are going to want to skip to War Suns, so red skips should be the most valuable.
Right. I would love to learn more about the choices of what planets they gave what traits.
Right.
And if there was a lot of specific choices there, or if it was I just wonder how like random it was versus like no, like was it all lore decisions? You know, did Christian T. Peterson know a history about Mahar Zul that the rest of us aren't that in on, and he decided to make Mahar Zul a hazardous planet? Or was it I wonder where all the choices for those things came from, because
it's all stayed consistent from version to version, right? Like the resource values. Influence values. Yeah,
they have.
So
there's been like 2 changes from TI3 to TI4, but very minimal.
Well, I mean, I guess then what I'm saying is that so skips weren't even a new thing. So like this choice wasn't even made when the tech system worked the way that it did.
I mean, the skips were the biggest change from TI3 to TI4. There were way more tech skips in TI3. So I don't know about that.
Well, but there's more planets in general. I thought that the tech skips, that vanilla TI3 and vanilla TI4 have the same amount of tech skips.
Definitely not.
Tech skips do different things. Oh, that's not true.
There were more in vanilla TI3. There were definitely more. Because the old tech skips were just a resource reduction. And so there were way more of them because they wanted to make that resource reduction. They wanted you to feel that reduction.
Well, you know what? Then here's the thing. What planets should have had the red skips instead of the ones that do?
That's an interesting experiment.
Yeah, that's maybe the actual thing. Is what if they just didn't have two, like that they didn't have 2 planets that they ended up landing on besides those 2. That made sense. So
I'd love to look. I'm actually, as nerdy as it is, I would love to look at all of that and kind of do a breakdown of like the major planet changes from TI3 to TI4, just to see kind of where the logic was. I think there's
that's
some
a fun
info
episode. with no real strategic depth to it, but it's just like that
an analysis of numbers.
Yeah.
Well, Hunter, let's get out of here. I'm gonna do a quick rundown, and then do you want to give me a play of the week? I think that's all right.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Twitter at SpaceCatsPod. You can get us on Facebook, Space Cats Peace Turtles. On both of those platforms, we'll post announcements. When we host streams, we post those on there, and any game updates that we have. You can also ask us questions on Facebook or Twitter, really, anywhere. Reddit Twilight Imperium is where we post each week's episodes, and we engage in discussion there, as well as our Board Game Geek Guild. You can also discuss things with us on our Discord. And you can get our Patreon benefits on Discord. Speaking of, join our Patreon. If you join before October 31st, you will be entered into our Patreon tournament. And after October 31st, we will send out those invites for all of the October month people. That will be then We've already sent one out for September. We'll then send one out for October. After we get all of the submissions, we will then schedule the tournament once we know exactly how many people are participating. So if you haven't subscribed to the Patreon yet because you thought you missed the window, you have not missed the window yet. October 31st is the last day. As long as you sign up for the Patreon before October 31st and we see your payment of $1 go through, you're in the tournament. Also, you can email us at spacecatspieceturtles@gmail.com, and you can submit this Imperium Life's or plays of the week, and those are stories of in-game moments. This Imperium Life is a full episode we do every now and then. The next one we're going to try to keep it on a really specific theme. Did we say what that theme was last time? I feel like we came up with an idea.
I don't remember.
I'm going to have to find out what we said. We were very interested in it at the time. And finally...
Wait, didn't we want salty stories?
We did. We want salty stories. Yeah, give us your best salty stories so that we can start collecting stuff for this Imperium Life. And finally, rate us on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and any other app of choice to improve our visibility and improve TI's invisibility. Invisibility?
Oh.
Visibility. Whoopsie doodle.
Yeah. No, improve our invisibility.
Improve our invisibility.
We want to be less.
We want to do stealthy
we want to be
maneuvers.
less seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're really turned off by the amount of people listening to the show. Hi there. I do comedy, Portland. You know what I'm talking about. Portland, Oregon. You know what it is. Portland, Maine, actually. I've relocated. Just kidding. October 17th, my sketch group, The Love Boys, are having our final show for the moment as my cohort, my stand-up comedy cohort, and probably my favorite comedian in Portland, Milan Patel, is leaving for sunny Los Angeles. So we are doing a going-away show for him on October 17th at the Kickstand Comedy Theater. That starts at 7:30 p.m. It is going to be an amazing show. We've been like writing the sketches and stuff, and I think it's going to be like our best show by quite a lot. The lineup is completely insane, mostly because everybody loves Milan. So if you come to that show, you're going to get to see, in my opinion, all of the best comedians in Portland, Oregon kind of get their hand on the ball. Also, just kind of side note, we did Comedy Bender today, and that will have been like 2 days by the time you listen to this. And it was packed out, legit awesome. And that show happens every second Saturday at the Lamp. At noon. It's like a brunch show. And if you're sleeping on that show and you live in Portland and you listen to the show and you haven't come out, I implore you to come out because it has been just really off the chain. Like today was maybe the best show we've ever done. And thank you to the people that have come out to the show and supported that show. That one's actually kind of got like, I would say, a little bit of a Space Cats overlap with it. Yeah. I think it's because it's a brunch thing, so people are like, oh, like I'll come out at noon. That's fun. Yeah, and that's it. I'm good.
I'm going to thank some Patreoners, some patrons. I first want to thank our Space Kitties, Jim Bov, Jada Pake, and Dustin Doom. And I also want to thank Michelle Maynard, Tyler Welch, and Wagnius. Thank you for contributing to our Patreon.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, also, I wanted to mention before we do the play of the week, those of you that are Good Yin Brotherhooders, Good Yin Brotherhoodies,
mm-hmm.
I think, and I'm kind of springing this on Matt, I want to try and do a Good Yin Brotherhood game next month. So we will be hitting you up kind of one-on-one as we go, just because we're going to need to know like everybody's schedules and stuff.
Right.
But those of you in the Good Yin Brotherhood and like, hey, why haven't I heard my thing yet? I think we are shooting for next month for that first game.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, hop on the Discord. We'll start getting notices out. We'll message you on Patreon. We'll try to get everyone's schedule together, and we'll find a date.
Yeah. All right, so for the play of the week, this one is from Thomas Bush. Thank you, Thomas Bush. A hush went over the assembled throng as Captain Jen Santiago Erickson strode out in front of the newly assembled Galactic Council for the first time. Ladies, gentlemen, and, he looked around the table, and, plants, haha. As speaker, I bid you welcome to this, our inaugural session of the Galactic Council. While our histories are checkered with the glories of war, I hope we can put aside our differences in order to bring a magnificent peace to the galaxy. A bead of sweat trickled down his neck. Despite his beaming smile, there was a certain tension in the air. As the Federation's foremost diplomat, he was used to high-stress situations, but glares from the Jolnar delegation in particular were making him a little uncomfortable. The assembled guard of elite Spec Ops warriors and sniveling Winu custodians shuffled behind him, and while he was glad to have the protection of their blasters, he couldn't help but look at the claws of the Hakanian sitting opposite him, let alone the giant insect to his right. Erickson shook himself slightly. The Federation had boldly laid their claim to Mechatol Rex, and he had magnanimously invited their former opponents to lay down arms and create real political change. The regular orbital drops of Yord's finest were just a security precaution. Yeah, all right. As democracy settled itself in the galaxy. He tried to put recent warnings from Starpoint that the Federation had overstretched itself in its pursuit of galactic control. He knew that they were in a good position defensively should any conflicts break out. In fact, his deputy, Leeway Adebowale, I'm messed it up. I'm a bad boy, had just this morning passed on a report on the well-maintained shields and fleets of emergency repair bots about to be rolled out to the Armada. Emergency repair, like you're like making stuff up. There was nothing to worry about. He flicked on the monitor in front of him. Today marks a historic day, for we shall put forward the first democratic legislation of the new era. Now, if you'll all please reach for your voting interfaces, the first order of the day shall be, He looked down. A wave of sickness came over him. Public, he stuttered. Execution? He looked up. There was no mistaking the look on the lion's face.
Fellow council members, said High Priest Thaddeus Yin with a smirk, as the new speaker, I bid you welcome to this, our second session on the Galactic Council.
That was theater, you know? I really got to flex my theater muscles on that, you know? Which is good. I really felt dialed into my character.
Yeah.
And, Matt, I think you did a great yin.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to thank my mom
one
and
note.
God.
No, I've got some notes.
Okay.
One note. Could have done it better. That's my note.
Could have done it better. I'm just
could
glad
have been better.
The last two thematic plays of the week I've done, I noticed I really very quickly tapped into some sort of like High Commander Southern-ish accent. And I'm glad I avoided that this time. It felt like the right choice, and I was glad to make it.
I think we both have that in common, that we kind of rest on that Southern thing whenever we need to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, well,
anyways, I'm going to see you later. Thanks for checking us out.
This has been Whiny Boy Diaper People. Keep your diapers clean. No problem fun.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles, and thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.